Welcome to a continuing education presentation, uh, How to Prepare for the Exam. This presentation is brought to you as a service of the Mississippi Security Association, and the credit applies to your license renewal under the State Fire Marshal's Office for any company that is involved in the low voltage industry in the state of Mississippi. As we look at the objective of this presentation, today many of the technical trades have some type of an exam that must be passed to work in the field. And these exams range from a course and exam that is required by the state as a minimum requirement, all the way up to a test for advanced certification exams for specific equipment or certifications that may be required as part of the specifications in a bid project. So this presentation is to help prepare a person for the type of multiple choice exams that we normally find in our industry. Upon completion, you should be able to prepare a study map, understand how to set aside study time, and understand some of the things that we can do to relieve the stress and prepare study materials so that we can test with confidence. So the words, there will be a test. In almost every training class that you attend today, we have this phrase in the course introduction. It can be terrorizing. It can strike cold fear into the hearts of those people that have never really learned how to study and prepare for a test. However, exams may be necessary to verify the ability of the candidate for certification within that field. So why are you here in this class today? Well, I hope that you're here because you're interested in actually learning something about preparing for the exam, and not just because you didn't want to sit through another sales presentation. So this presentation is really not going to teach you tricks to pass every multiple choice exam. It will help you understand that there is a practical way to prepare for exams and help you relieve some of the tension and anxiety associated with taking an exam. One of my favorite quotes from Marcus Aurelius, who was a Roman emperor between 161 AD and 180 AD, is that the secret of all victory lies in the organization of the non-obvious. Now, Marcus Aurelius was a Stoic, and he was a very prolific writer. So we do have a lot of his works that have survived from the Greek times and actually were collected in a book called Meditations. And he was kind of considered a self-improvement guru of his time. So when Marcus Aurelius penned this thought, maybe he was trying to place emphasis on the fact that the non-obvious is the little details that is often forgotten and therefore can lead to failure. So one of the things that we have to really do to be successful is to pay attention, to focus on the topic and devote the mind to that topic so we can absorb the information that we're studying. So to pay attention to someone, like a presenter, it means to listen to every word that they say, no matter how irrelevant it may seem at the time. Do not get distracted by what's going on around you. I know it's difficult to concentrate on a class or study material when the mind is worrying about other things going on. Negative situations, emotions, distractions can rob our mind of the ability to organize thoughts and to remember details. So one way of preparing the mind to learn is to start with a quiet moment of meditation. Close your eyes, concentrate on your breathing. Take a few long, deep breaths. Meditation can help you stay aware within the moment. Of course, being prepared also means taking notes. Note taking is an incredible, powerful tool for learning. Note will help extend your memory, allowing you to think of more complicated thoughts and solve harder problems. Taking notes can help us enhance our focus. Just the act of taking note ensures that your mind is not wandering off of that topic or subject. But we need to understand some important concepts about taking notes. The first is, what are you trying to remember? Or maybe we should ask it this way: what do you think you're going to forget? So that purpose of note-taking should enhance your concentration on the subject and allow us to take down important information. Now, the second thing is, how am I going to use this information? So I've taken some notes. Now I'm going to use this where I go back and study these details for an exam, or am I taking notes just to try to get the gist of the subject being put forth by the presenter? So what do we plan to do with those notes later? Will you be studying them? Or maybe you're just trying to stay focused. So if we are taking notes for future use that we're going to go back and look at, then there are a couple of things that we can apply. We call these strategies to take notes. So there's different techniques for note taking, and some work better than others depending upon how you use them. If you're planning to review notes many times to memorize details that you think might be on the exam, then writing notes on a pad might be the best method. Written notes can create a document that you can reference later to review, to study, or to find information if you're taking an open book exam. So written notes aid in the memory by recognition. So if I'm going to study them over and over and over and over, I can get to recognize important details that I have taken notes on. So some of the things that we can do is, if you're in a textbook, you can jot notes in the margin, or you can keep a small notepad so that you can jot down these main ideas, and that way we can go back and review those. Now, another strategy for taking notes is to write your notes in the form of a question. In the form of a question, we call this the question book method, and it aids in recall and retrieval of information, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer those questions. And that helps in the retrieval process, helps enhance the memory of the topic itself. Another method of taking notes works very well with digital content that would allow us to use an electronic device such as a tablet or our phone, or maybe a computer, and possibly a format of a PDF. You can get books today in PDFs. Some instructors hand out study guides. Others, you can download possible notes or information off of website. So this can help us, because a PDF type document can be marked up, highlighted, and it is searchable. So if I use an electronic method, then we find that we can search this very easily. An alternate digital method, instead of using something like Adobe PDF, is to use Evernote. That is an electronic app that you can get for some of your computer devices. One of the things that will help us develop a study habit and note-taking habit is to do something often and regularly. We can create a habit. That is to develop behavior that is beneficial to our mental health and usually linked to a higher level of discipline and self-control. So habits are developed through learning and repetition. And it normally takes this process over and over of doing something to develop this habit, getting into a habit of study. Now, to create a habit, one of the first things that you have to do is to have a goal. What are you trying to achieve? Almost every self-help or motivational guide would start with steps to identify your personal goals. You can ask, where do you want to be? Or what do you want to achieve in your career? Maybe a goal could be a lofty goal, like to be the owner of a successful low voltage contracting business, or maybe the qualifying agent that holds the license for such a contracting business. Each goal that we set is going to have steps that we will have to meet, the steps we'll have to take to achieve that goal. So if you're a fairly new employee in this industry, maybe your first goal is to pass the minimum course and exam that will meet the state's licensing requirement. Whatever your goal, there is a path that we can take. Our goals may be short-term goals. A short-term goal is completing the introductory course, obtaining a certification. That would be a short-term goal. Goals can change. When I first accepted a job as a system installer many years ago, my goal was not to manage the installation department for the company. It was just to learn to complete a workable install of a security system. After I became a competent technician, I set a new goal. And some goals do change over time. As we set new goals, we have to determine, well, what steps must I take to achieve the new goal? The steps might be to take a study course, either in person or online, or to attend an intensive training session from a manufacturer so that we can work with specific equipment, or to take a certification exam. So when we look at goals, some of the things to investigate is it something that is realistic? Is it specific? Is it measurable? We call this SMART goals. SMART goals means to consider all of the metrics that you see on the slide. You must be honest with yourself, though, and it is okay to revise a goal, especially if you do an evaluation and the answer to one of these questions is no, like it doesn't fit with my overall plan, then maybe we need to develop a new goal, or we need to develop a strategic roadmap on how we can meet our identified goals. Well, to create a roadmap, we need to identify that goal. So I'm going to use NICET certification as an example. NICET certification is a fire alarm certification that actually comes in like 4 different levels of certification to work in fire alarm systems. So if you choose to become certified in fire alarm systems at the highest level, that is a lofty goal, and it can take several years to complete. That is NICET level 4. So, that's a long-term goal. And I can set that long-term goal, but I really need to be realistic. I need to break that goal down into manageable parts so I don't get frustrated. Because NICET level 4 requires 10 years of verifiable work experience. To take the exam and pass the exam, you have to submit a major project write-up, and you have to get a recommendation from an engineer that can attest to your work. So that's a pretty lofty goal. So by breaking this goal down, I can make my first goal to pass NICET level 1. Well, that is an exam that you can take once you have achieved 6 months to 1 year of work experience in the field of fire alarm installation. The next goal could be to pass NICET level 2 with 2 years of verifiable work experience in the industry. And once I achieve that goal, then I can work on passing NICET level 3 exam with 5 years in the experience. So it's been said that goal setting is like taking a trip. The first step is to determine the destination. Then we plan the route and, watch out for roadblocks that might affect our trip. So once we have this mapped out, then we can use these as mile markers, or what we would call action steps, to kind of measure where we are along our journey for our long-term goal. And every so often, we need to reevaluate where we are on our journey to see if we're on the right path, or if we have veered off course, or if there's a roadblock that we've encountered. Some of those things might be the fact that maybe your job has changed with your employer, and instead of working in the fire alarm field, maybe for the last 2 or 3 years, you've been installing video cameras or working on overhead paging systems, or putting in access control. Well, that's kind of a veered off course, because NICET only looks at the work experience that you have in fire alarm, and work in these other areas can take away from that 2 years or 5 years or even 10 years experience in the fire alarm industry. So we reevaluate. We've got to be able to recognize if we're off track and get ourselves back on track, or change goals. So with this roadmap, once we have decided what we want to do and how we are going to achieve it, then we need to take some action steps that will actually move us towards that goal. These are the mile markers that we can actually measure. The benefits of identifying action steps can be described as it helps us focus on what's important. It provides that motivation or increases the sense of hope, and it could lead us to more job satisfaction. So things like, make a plan to prepare for taking a class on fire alarm systems. establish a study schedule so that I can study things that I know that's going to be on the test. I can submit an application and pay the exam fee so that I can take a test. And in preparation, it's possible that you could take some sample tests that you might find online. NYSET is our example here. They do have sample tests. And then, of course, I have to sit for the certification, and then I have to complete the certification and pay the certification fee. So those would be action steps that I can measure. Now, one of the things that that we need to establish, and I kind of mentioned this on the last slide, once I've decided to take a class or a certification course, then I need to set a date that I want to begin this process. I want to sign up for the class. When a date is not established, then it's very easy to get pushed back, and that is going to affect our preparation step. Maybe we forget the date, we miss an opportunity, or maybe we are too busy to go take that class at that time. Again, that's going to be a roadblock, or it's going to be kind of a detour in what we're trying to do. So if I've got to take an exam, especially if it is required for certification or license, or even a promotion, and some employers base pay increases. And then, of course, some people just want the satisfaction of knowing that they are certified at a higher level. So I need to start that path. Once I've set that goal and I've got those milestones, then I need to focus on those steps that will allow me to achieve that goal. So what can I do to focus? Well, most people are most productive in the morning. So we save those most creative tasks or the most difficult tasks and try to do those early. Well, if study is one of your difficult tasks, then try this. Get up a half hour early. Use that time to study or read material related to your goal. It will be easier to study before others are awake to interfere with your train of thought. Set reasonable expectation for study. Break that task down into smaller sections, such as studying a section instead of a whole chapter. An example would be if I were studying for NYSET, I'm going to look at the chapter 17 of NFPA 72, initiating devices. And so breaking it down, I don't want to try to read all 17 or 14 pages in chapter 17 that talks about 17 different topics. What I would probably do would be read from 17.1 through 17.5.3.2.2. This is non-required coverage for a system. So that is an introductory part. And I could do that in one day because it's only about a half a page long. And so I could read that in a 25, 30-minute time frame and actually look up some of the things back in the appendix that those references would send me to. And then the next day, I might read the section on heat detectors and smoke detectors, like 17.6 through 17.7, installation and spacing. That way you can focus on a single topic and not all 14 pages at the same time. We need to do things like remove distractions and not to try to multitask, because I want to focus on that study time so that I can achieve my goal. So, what kind of distractions? Well, social media, pause it, silence your cell phone, choose a quiet place where you can study comfortably. And, some people find that it's very relaxing to have soft music playing in the background. A suggestion for soft music would be something like soft instrumental piano music with no words, played at a very low volume. So that will help us. We need to declutter the things that would give us these distractions. We need to be able to relax and be in a kind of a relaxed mood. Bill Murray, the comedic actor that starred in shows such as Saturday Night Live, Meatballs, Caddyshack, Ghostbusters, he understood that when you relax, you're better at everything. And this is his quote: the more relaxed you are, the better you are with everything. The better you are with your loved ones, the better you are with your enemies, the better you are at your job, the better you are with yourself. So the key to being relaxed is to be prepared. When you're unprepared, then that creates stress, which can contribute to both physical and psychological tension. When a person feels this buildup of attention, they may experience feelings of fear or inadequacy, which will affect your ability to make decisions. And it will cause a loss of focus and lead to overgeneralizing or jumping to conclusions. So there's many ways to help reduce the effects of stress. One method is to quietly meditate a few minutes before exam time. And positive effects of relaxation is to promote better memory, and it creates a more positive thinking, allows for stronger concentration. So if I can do this by just breathing exercises, take deeper, slower breaths, it will improve attention. It can reduce the production of cortisol, which is the body's stress hormone. And that will have a positive effect physically. It lowers your blood pressure, reduces muscle tension, slows the heart rate, reduces anxiety. And we definitely want to reduce anxiety. When you worry, the mind dwells on negative and unpleasant thoughts and that you may not be able to get out of your head. So worry tends to be repetitive, and it is builds up anxieties. Bobby McFerrin said, "In every life we have some trouble, but when you worry, you make it double. Don't worry, be happy." So it is normal to have moments of worry occasionally. Everybody's got them. It's only a problem when you let your worries get in the way of other parts of your life. Now, we're not saying don't be a little nervous. You can be nervous without actually worrying. When you dwell on negative thoughts, anxiety can build up to the point that it triggers a fear response, and that will interfere with problem solving, attention. That's where we have a problem. But being a little nervous, maybe that can heighten your mind and your mind's ability to focus on your current activities. It can speed up your reflexes and your decision making. Being overly nervous, though, can trigger that fight or flight response, which leads to inability to make decisions. The distinction between the two is a very thin line. So if you think about a football quarterback, if he's a little nervous, it could speed up his ability to receive the snap, drop back while looking downfield to locate his receivers, and then firing a solid pass to an open receiver. However, after he's been on the receiving end of a couple of hard sacks by the defensive line, maybe he's a lot nervous, and that creates a feeling of fear, which is going to affect his ability to complete his passes. And we've seen that in football games. And that's one of the things they try to get into the quarterback's head to get him to the point that he is now worrying about his protection, and it affects his play. One of the ways that we can relieve some of this worry, some of this tension, is actually to be prepared by studying beforehand. So we want to be ready. Ben Franklin said, by failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail. He didn't mince words. You know, very few people actually practice being prepared. Preparing for a certification course or an exam can be stressful and time consuming, but it doesn't have to be, especially if you prepare beforehand, not wait until the night before. So what if you don't prepare? Well, if you don't pass the first time, you can almost always take it again later. There's only a few things that come to mind that is possibly a one and done situation, like the bullfighting exam with a live bull. Yeah, I definitely want to prepare for that. How about parachute packing course where you're the test dummy and you have to test the parachute? Or maybe pistol dueling class that uses live ammunition. Well, none of those things interest me. So I don't think I'll be doing those, but you can prepare. So there's several steps that we can follow in preparing. Like, once I have registered for a class or certification exam, I need to start thinking about the subject itself. Is there material available on the topic that I can get before the class? Maybe a YouTube video that I can watch, or a website has a PDF file for download, or a study manual that I can obtain in advance. I can start assembling these materials, such as highlighters, note paper, study guides, an app for my phone or my tablet. Some of the things that I can do in work projects, I can finish working on open projects that need to be completed so that I can have more time. And if they cannot be completed before the exam or the class, then I'm going to ask if they can be assigned to someone else so that I would not be distracted by this uncompleted work out there. And this would also include any reports or any billing for completed projects that I haven't turned in yet. You know, we don't want to wait until the last minute. And some of the things that you could do is let your coworkers know that you're going to be unavailable and give them your expected return date after the class. Change the message on your phone or your voicemail and put a vacation response on your email for those people that you think that need to know your status. And make some room for downtime to relax before the scheduled date. This can be me time, or it can be family time, but schedule that private time so that you go into the that class or that test being much more relaxed and prepared. Albert Einstein was once asked, what was the speed of sound used in the Edison test? To which he answered with this famous quote, never memorize something that you can look up. Well, in fact, Einstein had a terribly poor memory. He couldn't even remember his own telephone number. He often forgot his appointments, and he couldn't remember dates, even as important as birthdays. So we need to prioritize our study. We need to study smart. When you study, gather all your reference books, class notes, handouts, worksheets, and start with the toughest material first. Things like laws, codes, standards, if you know that they will be on the exam. Next, study the operation principles of the devices or the circuits as they will probably be on the test. And then finally, look at the material that might be on the exam. That way, if you run out of study time, you will at least covered the essentials. Don't try to memorize. Become familiar with the location of the information in the book or the study guide, because a lot of our exams are given as open book exams. So you'll have references there. So use tools to help you study. Some of the tools, such as tabs, can mark pages of the book or the study guide where important information can be accessed quickly. Or they can mark a chapter or operational requirement. However, don't use so many tabs that you can't quickly find what you need. Highlighters come in various colors, can be used to emphasize specific words or sentences that might be answers to exam questions. You can also use self-generated questions we mentioned earlier to help you understand the concept or an operating principle. We can create flashcards that we can use in study and study our written notes. If there are online practice exams, we can sign up and take those. And a lot of those you can take multiple times. So when you feel confident with the subject, then you should try. And it will build your confidence if you can pass for that. However, an overuse of practice exams could lead you into being exposed to a lot of incorrect answers, because the multiple choice exams, you typically have a question and 4 possible answers, sometimes maybe more. So if you review by repetition and you take these exams and you look at all of this, that means that for every 50 questions, and you take that exam 4 times, you have reviewed 600 incorrect choices and only 200 correct answers. So we have to be careful. Of course, there's not a perfect study method that works for everybody. Some people review by repetition, where you separate your study sessions spaced into intervals, but you review the same material over and over and over. Some people call this read, reflect, recite, review. And it works pretty well if you're trying to memorize specific tasks. Another method is active recall. This involves you actively recalling information rather than just reading it over and over by testing it yourself. This is where, through flashcards, where you've got self-generated questions, you can practice so that your brain will retain that information more efficiently. So you read the generated question and then you actually recall all the stuff that you can about that topic. There is another one, the Pomodoro method, which is rather time consuming, but if you have the time to do a lot of study, this is a method that you can use so that you don't get too tired. Basically, what you do is you break down your study into 25-minute increments, and then after each session, you take at least a 15-minute break where you can fully distance yourself from your topic, and then repeat that instead of just trying to sit there for hours. Couple of other techniques that, you know, the Fryman technique is described as studying based on the simple idea. The best way to learn is to teach it to a sixth grade. This technique requires the learner to break down complex topics into easily digestible chunks of information that's understandable at the level of an average sixth grader. And by doing so, you learn more deeply, you can think critically about what you're learning, and understand the topic. There's also the Leitner system, which uses flashcards as memorization. You make up cards that have questions on them with the answers there, and you put the cards in a stack. And on the first time through, you pick up a card and read the question and then answer it. If you get it successfully, you move that card into a new stack, we'll say stack number 2. And when you have gone through all of the cards in stack 1, answering them correctly, then you would have all the cards over in stack 2. However, if you do not answer a question correctly, you put it on the bottom of the stack of stack 1, and you keep going until all of the cards are over in stack 2. Well, then you start going through stack 2. And as you answered those correctly, you move them into a new stack, which we will call stack 3. And you keep doing this until you can answer all of the questions. So it is a method. Now, there are other study methods out there, but these are ones that kind of tend to work for most people. So some other steps that you can take in preparation for the exam, like the night before, we need to prepare. We need to achieve that feeling of confidence, and we need to relieve anxiety so that we can focus on the exam. So we start with preparation the night before. We can do a brief review, not an all-nighter, a brief review of notes and study material that's likely to be on the exam. You know, it's been shown that moderate exercise can help relieve tension and aid in sleep. So you can do some exercise. Prepare your clothing for the next day. Think about a comfortable outfit, maybe dress in layer, because, you know, a lot of classrooms or exam rooms are usually kept cool so that people will stay awake. And go to bed early and get a good night's sleep. Usually between 8 or 9 hours of sleep will help you prepare and so that you can stay awake. Now, on the day of the exam, you want to make sure that you eat a healthy breakfast that contains protein. Many of the cereals are heavy on carbohydrates, which actually wear off very quickly. Now, to make them healthier, you can add extra fruit such as bananas or strawberries or nuts or seeds. You can get additional protein out of those. Bagels with peanut butter or Greek yogurt can help you feel fuller longer because hunger can be a distraction that you really don't need. And you want to make sure that you stay hydrated. Drink water, not caffeinated drinks, not sugary drinks. Caffeinated drinks or will help take the water out of your system, and sugary drinks speeds up your metabolism so that you get dehydrated faster. So, just prepare. Also think about, a brief meditation period before you start your exam. That slow breathing, that just relaxation to be prepared. So if you take a multiple choice exam, there are some good recommendations here that will help you in taking these exams. So most of them are going to be open book and based on material that if it's a class, it's material that has just been covered in the classroom presentation. Therefore, one of the strategies to take this exam, read each question twice and think, what did it really ask? Some people are in such a hurry that they don't really understand the question before they start looking for the possible answer. And that could lead to an incorrect choice. So what did the question really ask? Read all the possible answers. Look for keywords. Look for similarities like conjunctions or subjunctive, and look for opposites. Get rid of as many of the wrong answers as you can before answering the questions. Cross the answers off that don't fit grammatically with the question, or if there appears to be more than one correct answer, choose the one that best fits the stem of the question. And it's okay to skip a question. If you don't know the answer, mark it in some way so that you can go back to that question. If you're taking a paper exam where you've got an exam book, you can mark it or circle it or place a tick mark out there, something that'll help you locate it. But keep in mind that there is a time limit on the test, so don't get stuck. So some of the other things that will help is try not to overthink your answer. Okay. Often a person will find the first impression that a specific answer is correct. So that feeling, what we call your gut feeling, maybe that feeling comes from memory of something that the instructor has stated in the class, or it might be from something that they remember from a slide, or maybe they read it in the student manual. So if you have a basic rule, read the question twice, what did it really ask? And then what is the most correct answer for that? If you get to overthinking the question, and if you think that first impression was too easy, they tend to change to an incorrect answer. Something else that will help you is make sure that you keep up with the time. Computer-based exams have a hard time limit, and they will end whether you're complete or not. So be aware of the time. Don't let it cause anxiety. Stay focused. Something that you can do is take the number of questions and divide it into the number of minutes for the allotted time. And then whatever that is, like 2 minutes a question or 1.5 minutes question, then make that the maximum time that you spend trying to answer a single question. Don't get bogged down and waste your time on a question that you do not have any idea where the answer can be found. One proven method for taking open book is the 3-step approach. Scan the exam all the way through and answer the questions that you recognize or that you can look up quickly, and you skip complex or unknown questions. That scan should take no more than, say, 20 minutes. On the second path, look up all of those skipped questions from the first pass that you kind of remember, or you may remember where you can look it up in the book. But again, skip questions that you have no clue, because you may find the answers while you're looking for something else. At the end of this path, you should still have about half of your allotted time left. On the third path, look up the remaining question, but watch the clock. By the time you have finished this pass, you should have about 10 minutes remaining. For the remaining time, just check to make sure that you have an answer for each one of the questions. So, proven method. And if you come across something, you've read the questions twice, you've eliminated answers, you know, possibly there's 2 that you've kicked out, you've got a 50-50 chance to guess correctly. And no, Dirty Harry is not waiting on you if you answer wrong. You know, you can guess wrong. There's still a high probability that you can still pass the exam, because depending upon what the passing score is, if you have 50 questions, you could potentially miss 15 questions and still score a 70. So if you've not paid attention or you've not studied, then you can actually fail the exam. But again, there is no death penalty. There may be a cost, however. You might have to take the course again on your own time or pay for the course out of your own pocket, but most of the time you will have another chance. Now, even though we might guess some, guessing should be an educated guess. Be aware that some exams have questions that are designed to have no real correct answer. These are gatekeeper questions. The questions like the one that you see on the screen, they're for an evaluation of your ability to decode the logic of the question. Sometimes you may have a question that appears twice on the exam, or you think that it's the same question. Read it carefully. There may be a slight difference that would require a different answer, but don't jump to conclusions. When you're taking an exam, you might see something like an answer that says all of the above. Well, on that question, try to eliminate one or more possible answers. If you can, then all of the above is not correct. So there's a lot of exam takers that would jump to that all of the above without verifying any of the other answers as being possibly wrong. So what we're looking for is the most correct answer. So what does POE stand for? Well, that depends. If the subject that you're studying is access control, then I would select A, point of entry. That would be a logical answer. What if my area of study is video cameras? Then B, power over Ethernet, would be a suitable answer. Or if my subject was philosophy, then I could successfully eliminate all the other answers, and the only true remaining would be process of elimination. If you're working with an architect that designs interior spaces, then the answer would be professional office environments. And if you're a gamer, a computer gamer, you might know about the role-playing game Path of Exile. So, context. What subject are you studying? When you're done, stop. After you've completed the exam, you might have a little time left. That time may be used to review questions to ensure that you have answered each one of them. And if you have answered them all, stop. This is not the time to retest by checking every question for another possible answer. You should be tired. You may not be able to think as clearly as when you first answered that question. Be very careful. Don't get caught up in trying to second guess your answers. Most people change a correct answer to incorrect because they've been looking at 150 or more incorrect answers for the last 2 hours. Thank you for paying attention, and thank you for your continuing work in this industry. I look forward to seeing you again in the future.